Okay, welcome back, friends. How are you? I'm Jack the Stroke Man, and today I'm going to try and get through three more quick lessons in flight gear. They're all the things you need to do prior to takeoff, and really what I want to do is just get in the air. I'm tired of like riding around on the ground and taxiing. Let's see if we can't get this puppy up in the air. But in order to make sure we don't miss too many things, I think we want to go through these other tutorials that are still, in the list prior to takeoff. I'm still in my Cessna 172 training aircraft. I think I've set my time of day to about noon. And I am ready to see what these things are. The last time we left off with taxiing, and now we're going to do this before takeoff check. So clearly it says this tutorial covers the before takeoff checklist. This involves engine checks that are made in the run-up area just prior to taxiing to the runway and takeoff. So what you need to do is start your engine, taxi up to that run-up area, and then in the run-up area, go ahead and do these tests. So let's see how I do. Let's start this tutorial. Well, she's already got me sitting on runway 8, which is not the run-up area.
You can access the pre-takeoff checklist by selecting Help Checklists from the menu.
Yep, like she says, they're right here. Aircraft checklists.
The parking brakes are already applied, so our first check is that the flight controls are free and correct. Check that moving the yoke from left to right moves the aileron in the expected manner. Now, check the other aileron. We're checking that the controls aren't jammed by our seatbelts, etc., and that the aircraft has been rigged correctly.
You probably can't tell, but I'm using my joystick.
Nose up, scroll down with the mouse wheel.
So we want more nose up. I can do that here, right, with the joystick. I'm not sure how far up she wants it. Okay, how much?
Set the elevator trim a bit more nose down, scroll up with the mouse wheel.
A little more nose down. Okay, so she think I went too much. Where do you want it? 0?
Now check that the mixture is set to rich fully in.
All right, mixture, 100% full rich.
Set the throttle to 1700 RPM for the engine checks.
Okay, 1700. Let's
increase throttle to
I'm coming up.
1700 RPM with PGUP or your joystick throttle control.
Whoa,
that's a bit high. Reduce
I know.
Throttle to 1700 RPM with PGDN or your joystick throttle control.
Yep, I'm using the joystick.
This aircraft has a vacuum pump to power some instruments, such as the attitude indicator and directional gyro.
Okay.
We need to check that the vacuum system is working correct by checking the suction gauge. Check that the engine instruments are in the green.
Cool.
Check that the electrical system is also fine.
Yep, it's plus.
Now we need to check that the magnetos are working correctly.
Oh, cool. Look, she turned that on for me.
Use your middle mouse button, or use your mouse scroll wheel to move the key to the right R position. There should be a small drop in the tachometer. Set the key to right.
Oh, wait a minute. It turned it off. I didn't do that. Okay, let me start again.
Click the key twice with the left mouse button to switch back to both magnetos. The tachometer should recover back to 1700 RPM. Now we'll check the left magneto. Use your middle mouse button or scroll wheel to switch to the left magneto. Again, there should be a small drop
in the tack.
Set the key to left. Click the key to switch back to both magnetos. The tachometer should recover back to 1700 RPM.
Recovered back. I'm a little higher than 17.
Set the throttle back to between 800 and 1000 RPM. That's a bit high. Reduce throttle slightly with PGDN.
Boy, she doesn't give you any chance. You should adjust the throttle gradually. You shouldn't just slam it back and forth.
Now complete. We're ready to fly.
Okay, that's it. I have finished this tutorial, my pre-flight checkoff. Let's go right away into the next tutorial, which is tuning the radio. Ah, cool. We need to know how to do that, don't we? Excellent.
In this lesson, you'll learn how to tune the radio to the TIS of Hilo Intel, which is the nearest one with TIS.
Okay. Hilo Addis. I don't know what she said,
First,
but
you need to power the aircraft by switching the battery on.
okay, I can do that. That's easy.
Then switch the master avionics on to start the radio stack.
Okay, that gives
The
power to the radios.
in the middle of the center console.
Charlie,
They lit up.
1720 Zulu, wind 150 at 3.
There are 4 radios on this aircraft, 2 for communication COM1, COM2, and 2 for navigation NAV1, NAV2. Each radio has an active frequency and a standby frequency. We tune the radio by changing the standby frequency and then swapping the active and standby. To change the standby frequency, click on the highlighted knob. The outer knob changes the number on the left of the decimal place. The inner knob changes the number on the right of the decimal place. The left mouse button increases the value, while the middle button decreases it. Alternatively, you can use your mouse wheel. Set the standby frequency to 126.4 MHz. This is the TIS frequency for Hilo Intel Airport and is printed on sectional charts. Set the standby frequency to 126.4 MHz. This is the TIS frequency for
Okay.
Hilo Intel Airport and is
I went
printed
too
on
far. How do I go
sectional
down?
Set the standby frequency to 126.4 MHz. This is the TIS frequency for Hilo
Okay.
Intel Airport and is printed on sectional charts. Set the
Okay.
standby frequency to 126.4 MHz.
Oh, 126.4. Okay, hang on.
Airport and is printed on sectional charts.
I'm almost
Set
there.
the standby frequency to 126.4 MHz. This is the TIS frequency for Hilo Intel Airport and is printed on
So we could
sectional
hear
charts.
this radio, which is
Switch
annoying,
the
right?
active and standby frequencies by pressing the swap button so the active frequency is 126.4 MHz. We need to set the COM1 output.
Whoa, where'd I go?
The audio panel. Use the
All right,
left
hang on,
mouse
hang on, I'm
button
coming
to
back.
drag the COM1 switch upwards if it is not already in that position. We need to set the COM1 output to our headset using the audio panel. Use your left mouse button to drag the COM1 switch upwards if it is
Okay.
not already in
Cool.
that
That
position.
turned her off, so I didn't have to
the
listen
TIS
to her.
message. If you cannot hear it, look at the sound configuration dialog on the file menu. It will tell you the current weather conditions, the runway in use, and the altimeter setting. Once you've heard it, you can switch it off by swapping the frequency back to standby or toggling off the audio panel. Switch off the audio panel by setting the switch to the middle position. Great job. COM2 is located immediately below COM1 in the radio stack and is tuned in the same way. The nav radios work in exactly the same way, except they use a different frequency range and their output goes to the navigational instruments.
Oh, God. Thank you. Okay, now shut her off because that was like pretty distracting in my ear there. But basically, what that just did was we tuned to the ATIS frequency for the airport we're at, and we got the weather and altimeter conditions. And I think they even told us that when you contact the tower, let them know that you know, got this briefing, and I think it was called like briefing Oscar. I think it was kind of hard to hear the co-pilot tutorial instructions and this radio all at the same time. Pretty distracting. But basically, turn on the avionics stack, tune your radio. So what she was also saying, I'm not sure if you heard it or not, was you have 2 radios, a COM1 and a COM2, that you can set to different frequencies. And then you could switch which radio you want at any given time. But even so, on each radio, so let's say COM1, you have, again, 2 frequencies. You have the one that's active and you have a standby. So what you can do is continue to listen to the active one or transmit if you need to, while you program the frequency for the next one. And then when you get to that point in your flight, you just have to hit this swap button, and now your second standby frequency is the active one. So that way there's less for you to do as you're approaching this airport and trying to do other things. You also have two navigational radios, and I don't think we're even going to touch those for now. Those will help us later when we're trying to land and we're using navigational beacons or something to tell us if we're on the right flight path or not. So that's it for tuning the radios. It's pretty straightforward, but at least we now know how to do it. And then the last one, I believe there's one more, which is setting the altimeter. And here again, right, the altimeter on the aircraft is adjustable. Now, the reason this is so important is because you're going to take off from one airport and most likely land at a different one. That different airport is not going to be at the same elevation as the one you took off from. And it doesn't know where you're coming from. And the next person that's coming there to land maybe is coming from somewhere else. So the way this works is every airport, every airplane, the altimeter is always set more or less to sea level. So that when you go from, let's say, an airport at 50 feet above sea level to another airport that's 1,000 feet above sea level, you know that when you get there, when your altimeter says 1,000, you're landing. You're on the ground. You're not trying to go somewhere crazy. And then in order to do this, your altimeter gauge in the airplane has to really register accurately. And this is where this adjustment comes in. It measures and it tells you the altimeter based on atmospheric pressure. That atmospheric pressure can change from time to time with the weather that's occurring outside. If you're in a high pressure system, it's going to be much higher than if you're in a low pressure system. So you need to do exactly that. Set the altimeter in your airplane for where you are at a known place. That's the important part here is once you take off, you no longer know. You're guessing what altitude you're at and what elevation you're at. But when you're on the ground at an airport, that's a known. That's been surveyed. We know that this Hilo, Hawaii airport, I think is like 37 feet above sea level, and that's what we need to set. So that all being said, let's go ahead, give this thing a start. Okay, come on.
In this lesson, you'll learn how to set the altimeter to the Helotus. I've already set the radio to the correct frequency 126.4. Listen to the TUS message. If you cannot hear it, check the sound configuration item in the file menu.
Okay, she said she set it, but it's not even on. And she wants me to...
The TUS message said the altimeter setting was 29.97. We can set this on the altimeter by using the small insert window on the right side. Alternatively, we can adjust the altimeter so that it matches the altitude of Hilo 37 feet. To adjust the altimeter directly, use the knob on the bottom left, click on the right side to increase the altitude, and left to decrease. Alternatively, use your mouse scroll wheel. Set the altimeter to 37 feet or the pressure setting to 29.97 INHG.
So you can see,
increase the altimeter setting or altitude.
Right now it is 29.95. That is your actual atmospheric pressure in like mercury units. I don't know what I'm talking about here, but that's what that is. Trying to set the actual altitude to 37 feet up here is going to be hard because, you pretty much know where 50 is, you know where 100 is, but 37 is going to be a guess. I would set the actual atmospheric pressure. So we need to go up only 2. So 96, 97, that should be it. And
Tutorial complete. If you set the pressure setting
yep,
correctly, you can double check you've set the correct value by checking the current altitude.
which we just did, right? The altimeter now is pointing a little bit higher than 0, but not quite 50. So it's pointing right around somewhere around 37. We set the exact altitude. It was important to listen to this radio, which I really didn't do, because the next time I fly, it's probably not going to be 29.97. It could be 30.05, or it could be 28 point something. So it's important to listen to the radio, find out what the current atmospheric pressure is, set that in your altimeter. I think at this point we are ready to take off. We've set our altimeter, so once we get off the ground, we'll know what altitude we're at. We know how to tune the radio so we can listen to other traffic at this airport to make sure we don't crash into somebody. We've learned how to start it. And we've learned how to test the airplane just prior to takeoff so that we can make sure that things are truly functioning the way they should. So all in all, I think we're pretty much done, and we are ready to try and take off. This is going to be the tricky part because I'm using this joystick. I think this joystick is very sensitive. You too, if you install this and start to fly, you're probably going to find out that this joystick takes very little inputs. You don't slam it from left to right or up to down, in a panic to correct something. If you're veering offline like we did when we were taxiing, you just want to gently tap it back into line. And if it doesn't come, then hit your brakes and slow down a little bit. Same thing when you get up in the air. If this thing really starts diving, pull the elevator up little by little. Don't panic. You're probably not going to hit the ground just yet. But we'll see. Once we get there, that's going to be our next video. Our next video, we're going to try and take off and see how I can do. Anyway, join me next time. Hope to see you soon. Bye.